Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday workshop. We're going to give everyone a few seconds to go and log in, and then we'll get started. All right. Once again, my name is Brian Martinez with NuView Trust Company. Thank you all for joining us. Today, we are going to talk about the self-storage freight train with my special guest. His name is Scott Meyers, a good friend of mine. Before we get started, just a few things I want to mention. So NuView does not provide any tax or legal advice. We are not financial advisors. We are not attorneys. We're simply the self-directed IRA custodian. So this allows you to do a variety of things in your IRA, specifically self-directed. What is self-direction? Well, it gives you an opportunity to pick and choose investments that are more tangible type investments like real estate, or do things like mortgage notes, tax liens, a variety of things that you might already be doing with your own cash. Why not do it in an IRA? The reason you'd want to do it in an IRA is there's some tax savings that comes along with that, depending on the type of IRA you're using. It might be tax deferred or tax free. So I'm going to mention a couple of different plans. You have your traditional IRA and your Roth IRA, probably the most common types of IRAs. So anyone that's new and listening and wanting to learn, your traditional IRA is a tax deferred type of plan. What that means is you don't pay taxes on that until you start taking distributions after the age of 59 and a half years old to avoid any 10% penalties. And then you pay taxes based on whatever your tax bracket is at that time. The contribution limits are only $6,000 a year if you're under the age of 50. Once you reach the age of 50, you can start contributing an additional $1,000 on top of that $6,000. Now, the Roth IRA, it's a little bit different. That one, you pay the taxes on the contributions you make. So that $6,000 or extra $1,000 if you're over the age of 50 would be taxable, but then it's going to grow for you tax exempt. And when you take it out after the age of 59 and a half, it is tax free. Then you have employer plans. These have higher contribution limits, like a solo QRP. That's what we call it at NuView, or a solo 401k. You might have heard of that. Now, this plan allows you to contribute up to $61,000 a year. If you're over the age of 50, there's an additional $6,500 catch-up contribution. You have your SEP IRA. There's no catch-up contribution with this plan, but you can also contribute up to $61,000 a year. It is based on how much you earn at the end of the year. 25% of that can be contributed to the SEP IRA. You can have employees with the SEP IRA, but with the solo 401k, you cannot have employees. So that's a difference between the two plans. And then a simple IRA is another type of IRA, great for small businesses. Only $14,000 a year you can contribute. If you're over the age of 50, there's a catch-up contribution of $3,000. And if you have any employees, there's a mandatory 3% employer match. So those are your employer plans. Some specialty plans that most people don't know they can self-direct. Your education savings account each year for any kids or grandkids, you can contribute $2,000 a year. And they can use this for, just like it sounds, education expenses. So whether that's private school or college, tuition, books, laptops, internet, anything like that, that's considered education expenses, you can use this plan towards. But the power of this plan is partnering with some of the other plans on some of the investments that you can make in a self-directed IRA. This way the plan can grow for you. And it's not just based on what you're contributing to the plan, it's actually growing. And your health savings account, like I said, most people don't know you can self-direct this. Yes, the health savings account can be invested into alternative assets as well. So if you have a plan that covers just yourself, it's $3,650. If it covers your family as well, it's $7,300 you can contribute each year. There's a $1,000 catch-up contribution if you're over the age of 55. Same thing, partnering, that's where the power is partnering all of these plans together and being able to make investments in these alternative type of assets. Now, these are some of the most common investments clients will make. Private entities, whether it's a fund, a limited partnership, a joint venture, an LLC, probably the most common type of investment we see. Also, real estate. Real estate can fall into the private entity, so it just depends on how the deal's structured. You have foreclosures, tax liens, multifamily, option contracts, condos, land, offshore real estate. I mean, the list goes on and on when it comes to real estate. And you have your crypto and your promissory notes. So those are some of the most common types of investments. But today, our focus is going to be on self-storage. So Scott Meyers, a good friend of mine. If you don't know who he is, you should know he's got over 27 years of experience in real estate. specifically self-storage investing. And he explains a little bit why he transitioned from the old type of multifamily and single family homes into self-storage. He also has a new fund. It's called the Tri-Core Fund. And you can also tune into his podcast. It's the Self-Storage Podcast. Pretty easy to remember. It's a great way to learn more about Scott Meyers and about self-storage investments. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Scott and let him take over from here. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Ryan, how are you? Good to see you again.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let you go ahead and share your screen and take over for the next 40 minutes, and I'll jump back on for Q&A.
All right, gang. Can everybody see my screen? I guess it's more important, Brian, that you tell me that everybody can see.
Yep, you are perfect.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you, Brian. And well, welcome, everyone. We get to talk about my favorite topic, and that is self-storage. Outside of my family and maybe watching some Formula One racing, this is my passion. This is what we do. This has been our mission field, as well as an investment for us. And we just couldn't be happier with what we're seeing in the market right now. Self-storage is really built for this time, and that is not only for a pandemic, but also as we head into a recession. And so we're pretty excited about where we are right now. So no, we don't celebrate recessions and we don't celebrate pandemics. But it is very good to our industry. And so I'm thankful for Brian to allow me to come on and explain just exactly what that looks like and why all eyeballs are on self-storage right now, because it is the freight train that has done so well over the past couple of years. I mean, all real estate has done very well. But the good news with self-storage is, at least for us and those that are in it, is that it is sustainable throughout the recession for a number of factors, which we'll talk about today. So thanks again to everybody at NuView Trust. They have done such an incredible job and been supporters of ours. Many investors like yourselves have been investing in our projects, and we always look forward to being able to teach and educate everybody about this asset class and how they can use a self-directed IRA or other retirement vehicles to be able to invest in this asset class because of the returns that they produce, and because of the nature of the industry itself. So with that, for those of you that are new to self-storage perhaps, or want to at least just understand exactly what is happening right now in the market and how self-storage is affected, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about right now. So with that, yes, the pandemic has been good to self-storage, and that is for a number of reasons. And that is, first of all, if you look at the dynamics that occurred, it did nothing but benefit self-storage. First of all, it's an essential business, and so it never shut down. And if you look at the other asset classes, comparatively, Green Street Advisors looked at the negative effect of COVID or the pandemic on the other all asset classes, and self-storage was the least negatively affected. As a matter of fact, it's done extremely well because when everybody else was sent home, well, self-storage had benefited because it was essential, and we weren't dealing with people. It's just folks' stuff. They're treasures that are stored into a self-storage unit. And so what we've seen is that there was, first of all, the major shutdown. There was a lockdown, and everybody went home. And that meant they went home from college. And so they had to set up, they put all their stuff in from the dorm room into self-storage, which created a huge surge in demand. Then the rest of the schools were shut down, and everybody came home to do school. Well, most houses weren't set up for doing school, so they had to clear out the dining room, clear out a living room, spare bedroom to set up a place for school. And then many office buildings and their workplaces were shut down as well. So one or two income earners, wage earners, were sent home as well. And we had to create more room for doing work and now school at home. And so that created a huge demand and surge for self-storage. It is an essential business. It was not shut down. And also the fact that we usually only have maybe one employee on site that is behind a counter with a plexiglass, or in many cases, which I'll show you in a moment, if you've ever been to a self-storage facility that was unmanned, where a kiosk handled the rental of a unit and provided the gate code and sometimes dispensed a lock through the bottom of the kiosk itself. It allowed us to basically continue to operate as is because we've been prepared for the pandemic just by the nature of the business since day one. It is not a very difficult transaction. That rental transaction is no more difficult than a red box rental when you're renting a disc, if you are still doing that and not live streaming, from a red box rental at the front of a store. It's just it is that simple and that easy, and does not involve or require human-to-human contact. So for those reasons, we saw a huge demand or surge in demand for self-storage, and therefore the industry saw a huge increase in occupancy and therefore rental rates, and has now caused this industry to rise to the top, and has come out not only unscathed but has benefited and profited more than any other asset class over the past 2 years. And it was a little taste of what happens during a recession, because the same thing happens during a recession in self-storage. Businesses downsize and they put their excess inventory into self-storage. Individuals downsize as they lose jobs and they move back home or move in with somebody else. At the same time, lenders aren't always lending on development projects for new construction, at least not to some of the newer developers. They are with the relationships they have with the savvy developers, but there's an overall slowing of development in self-storage development, and so therefore you have a surge in demand and you have a development pipeline that is shut down, and so it does nothing but create a boom for self-storage. And that is why the REITs, the real estate investment trusts, like Public Storage, they are buying more properties because there has been a little bit of a development hiccup, and the best way to expand and to get ahead of what happens during a recession, which we're going to be heading into, or we're in now, depending upon who you talk to and what news source you're looking at. And the demand is coming, and so Public Storage and the others are scrambling to buy as well as develop. So that is what I've been in this industry for a number of years, and that is what we have continued to do basically since the last recession. I saw how well I was in self-storage at that time. As Brian mentioned, prior to that, I was in single-family homes and apartments, and we did a number of those here in Indianapolis, where I live with my amazing wife and my 3 amazing kiddos and their 1 average dog. When I got into the business, we started in single-family homes. So bought and rehabbed a lot of single-family rentals and had apartment units as well. But then in 2005 is when I made that transition into self-storage. But up to this point, from that point up till now, we have bought, converted, developed over 15,000 units and over 2.5 million square feet of self-storage. So this will be the 3rd recession that I've gone through as a real estate investor. And the last one in self-storage, I was all in self-storage. And we've seen these same things occurring over and over again. This recession will look different this time around, but we knew what to expect. And we're seeing that happen right now. And so, yes, absolutely, we are prepared and preparing even more so for the upcoming recession and what it means for our industry. So since then, since the last recession, we've raised over $60 million from our 400 plus private equity partners. Again, many of those folks that are NuView customers and clients that have invested in our single asset syndications as well as in our fund. I regularly speak for the Inside Self-Storage at their trade shows. I write for their magazine, same with the Self-Storage Association. I write on behalf of the industry for Forbes magazine. And as Brian mentioned, also we have the Self-Storage podcast. In 2007, after we had been investing for a number of years in the asset class, I ran a real estate investment group here in Indianapolis and began holding workshops teaching people how to get into this business as well, because it is a great business. And that side of our business took off, and we really created our own arm of an education and consulting business, which has allowed us to not only reach more people, to educate people in the industry, to make it a better industry all around when you have educated investors and we're not tripping over each other, but has also created some fantastic partnerships and joint ventures over the years from folks that we've taught how to do things the right way, that have then come back to us and presented opportunities for us to either buy or participate in. And at the end of the day, the reason why we do this and the reason why my wife and I started a business is not only because self-storage does provide a lifestyle business. And I know that's a cliche term that's thrown around a lot for real estate investors, but I can tell you that wasn't the case when I was in houses and apartments. That was busy managing a lot of tenants and toilets. But in self-storage, there's no tenants, toilets, and trash. It's one of our mottos on our education side of the business. And yeah, there's hiccups and headaches, but there's nothing urgent. There's no sense of urgency in self-storage because you don't have people living there and you don't have pipes busting, and it's just nothing that a phone call and really a credit card, a check, or a maintenance person can't take care of. And so that has allowed us to raise our kids, to homeschool them, and to go build houses around the world in the Dominican Republic and mostly Mexico. And we take our clients, some of the folks here that are part of the NuView family and community, as well as our vendors and anybody really that wants to come along on a trip with us. We pay for that trip and introduce people to a short-term mission trip where in 2 days we build a house and give it away to a deserving family. And so that is at the core of what we do. Our businesses are our mission field, both our education side of the business and our investment side. So we've learned a thing or two from the recessions in 99 and 2008. And again, we don't celebrate what's coming, but we can't wait for number 3 because we know what happens in self-storage. So why is that, and why now? Well, as we discussed, pandemic created a surge in demand, and many people saw that. Maybe that's the reason why you're on this call right now, is because you've seen that self-storage has really outpaced all the other asset classes in terms of returns. And what we've also found as a result of that is companies, had begun to and experimented with sending workers home to work virtually. But then when you're forced to, then you really determine, and you have to dig in, when as you burn the ships, as they say, you understand just exactly what this looks like. And what many companies found is they said, well, we really like what this looks like, meaning that now they reduce their office space, they're selling their office buildings, and they're allowing their folks to work from home. They are productive. They're happier. Their lives are more fulfilled. And now this allows these folks that are truly 100% virtual, they can be anywhere as long as there's an internet connection. They're not tied to the corporate headquarters, the city where the business is located in, or a time zone any longer. And so you're seeing a lot of folks that are moving around the country to different places. You're seeing people going to live in other parts of the world. Puerto Rico has an influx of people that are going to work from Puerto Rico or anywhere else they want to be, or taking sabbaticals to determine where they want to go. And as a result of that, people are putting their goods into self-storage when they move, and there's a transition that always creates a demand for self-storage. And other folks that are maybe downsizing or exploring what it looks like to travel for a while they work, they're putting their items into storage as well. We've for the past 10 and 12 years, we've been seeing the effects of the baby boomers and the effects they've had on demand for storage in our industry. If they've retired, well, they have boats, they have RVs that they need to store because they can't store them in the neighborhoods. The associations, the homeowners associations won't allow it. They have accumulated a second home, a vacation home, and so they store their stuff in one home when they go and spend time at another, or when they rent it out or Airbnb it out. That has created a demand for storage. But then as they're aging now, when they downsize, they put their extra items in storage that they're going to hold on to and pass along to their heirs or to the estate. And then when they go into assisted living, they downsize again. And then ultimately, when they pass on, we have a settling of the estate, if there was a will or whatever that looks like. And everything is distributed amongst the kids, but then if the kids or the heirs don't want everything, the extra goes into storage, and because they can't get rid of it, they won't throw it away because it's heirlooms, and so it goes into storage. And some of those items from these estates have been in our units for 3, 4, 5, not months, but years or longer, because it's just easier to write the check than it is to figure out what to do with it or where to take it. And in recent years, I did write an article for Inside Self Storage magazine doing research on that. The concern was that the millennials, they're minimalists, and they don't have a lot of stuff. They don't covet a lot of stuff, and they don't need to find their joy or happiness in it. It's in adventures and going out and being mobile and moving around and working for 6 months and then taking off for 2, 3, or another 6 months, whatever that may look like. And that is true. However, what we've seen is it has had the opposite effect of what everybody thought it would have in terms of storage. So if they are going to move, there's still that stuff that they have. They get a TV and a bed. They're going to put into storage while they're backpacking across Europe or discovering where they want to live in the U.S. for months at a time. And when they land somewhere, when they come back, they're going to go to a tiny house, or they're going to go to an apartment or a condo or share a place. Well, they're still going to have stuff they need to store, and they do like adventures. They do like to be outside, and that means adventure means camping gear. It means fishing gear. It means kayaks. It means mountain bikes. All the trappings that an outdoorsman or somebody who likes adventure has that they won't be able to fit into their apartment or in their shared space with somebody else. And so we're actually seeing by numbers, by stats, that the millennials are actually outpacing almost 2-to-1 the demand for self-storage. And so for anybody worrying about the self-storage industry as a result of the millennials, we're just fine. So we're in good shape. Well, during the pandemic, RVs were sold out. Nobody could go on vacation. They couldn't fly to Europe. They couldn't fly anywhere because they couldn't be in a little tube with anybody except for their family. And so they bought a tube on wheels, and you couldn't get an RV. And they're just now finally getting to that place. I think gas prices have caused them to not fly off the lots as quickly as before. But that has also created a demand for storage as well. A lot of RVs being sold. They can't park them in their driveway. They can't park them on the street in their neighborhoods. So they go to self-storage. They go to storage facilities that have a lot. Same thing with boats. It's either a boat or an RV or both. If you can't go on vacation, this is what people were doing. And the boat dealerships, virtually everywhere I go, including the 3 in town by me, there's nothing out there on the lot or in the showroom, but maybe 1 or 2 overpriced boats, and that's it. So that has created a nationwide wait list for storage units, RV and boat units. As a matter of fact, I pulled this down just to, I thought, how can I graphically show this as well? And I don't want to say just trust me, but if you go out there and look, perhaps in your town, and virtually all of the major MSAs, the top 50 and higher, larger MSAs, they've got waiting lists at most of their self-storage facilities, unless there's a new development that has happened to go up. But now we're seeing it. I've never seen this before, but I did see this today, that on the website, people are just saying, hey, don't call, stop trying to rent a unit online. We have no vacancy. There are waiting lists. And we found that in most of our facilities right now. We still have people that are running the phones, but we're not manning them and having somebody sit there in our facilities any longer. We're letting technology and our call centers handle that because we're full. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Well, don't just take my word for it. If you follow The Motley Fool, I'm a resource for learning and getting research and information on where to invest. They've been following self-storage and have reported several times on why self-storage is going to do well as we head into 2022. And it is a strong buy. They're focusing on the REIT side, the Real Estate Investment Trust, which have been doing phenomenally well and is also a very safe investment. So, essentially like a mutual fund that focuses on just self-storage or just apartments. Multi-housing news. Writing about self-storage, you can't avoid it, even in multi-housing news. Self-storage comes of age with traditional lenders. And as Peter had written in this article, investments in commercial real estate, the status has not gone unnoticed by financing sources. In just the last 5 years, self-storage has managed to move from an asset class of interest to a preferred asset class for many traditional lenders. And so it has become the asset class that has been the safest and is one that lenders are recognizing is one that they are very interested in. Biz Now, recession in 2022, U.S. self-storage says bring it on. And that's us. That's me included, everybody here in Storage Nation, all of us investors, because we've seen and we know, once again, what happens in the dynamics in the market and what happens to self-storage during a recession. And so, yes, we have been patiently waiting, and we are excited. And this is why. Yes, this article does say Thursday, July 19th of 2012. I put this in here to show, once again, for those, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago on the back end of that recession of 2008, but on the back end of that, self-storage industry outlasts the recession and outpaces REIT sector growth. The self-storage sector, the REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trusts, and the rest of the industry did extremely well and outpaced all other asset classes in real estate. And so that was just more fuel for our business and why we decided to go 100% into self-storage. Sold all our houses, sold all our apartments. We had office buildings, we had large warehouses, we had cold storage, we had parking lots, that were parking, freight trailers, and everything in between. And we decided that, if we're going to, why not? Why continue to fragment? Why not be, 100% in the asset class that profits the most? It does well during boom times, inflationary periods, because people buy more stuff and they need to store more stuff. And also, most importantly, during a recession, this is the asset class that we wanted to be in. And I did write an article about this. If you wanted to dig in a little deeper and get even more statistics on this, look up my name under Forbes magazine. 4 reasons investors are looking at the self-storage industry right now. So we're going to cover some of those right now, but that's a little deeper dive with a little more heady with the stats. So let's talk about the reasons why, first of all, the business model itself does well during a recession, also during boom times, but why it's just a rock-solid asset class to be investing in, period, is because it mitigates the downside risk. And that is in other asset classes. I've been in houses and apartments, office buildings, not so much, but on the habitational side, we have the protection, which is opposite of habitation laws or eviction laws. We have the protection of lien laws in self-storage. So in a lien law, or with a lien law in a self-storage facility, if somebody doesn't pay the rent by the 6th of the month, we can lock them out of their unit or put them into what's called an overlock situation. And then if they don't pay after 60 or 90 days, depending upon the state, we get to auction their stuff off. Now, you can't do this in apartments or single-family homes. It's illegal. But in self-storage, we have lien laws, which are completely different than eviction laws. Eviction laws protect the tenant, and lien laws protect the owner of the building. So we get paid 100% of the time. We go through this lien process, and either they pay, or at the back end, either 60 or 90 days, depending upon the state, then we sell their stuff off. And so I bet there's many investors out there in apartments that wish they were able to do that, but they cannot. It is illegal. And so we don't have to go to eviction court. We don't have to go to small claims court. There are no courts. There's no attorneys or collection services or juries. We are the judge and jury, as a matter of fact. The lien law gives us the right to be able to lock them out, sell their stuff off, cut their lock, sell their stuff off, and then move on and clean it out for the next person. And the beautiful thing about that is whether somebody leaves on their own, or if we do hold an auction, the person who buys that unit, they take everything out, and they have to provide a deposit in order to just attend the auction and bid, because they can't just cherry pick what they want and then leave the rest, the trash for us. They have to clean everything out of that unit that they win at the auction, and then they have to sweep it out, or they don't get their deposit back. So what I get back is a unit that is ready to rent again. Whereas with our apartments, if we evicted somebody or they moved out, we had to clean carpets, replace carpets, we had to paint, we had to repair, do all the maintenance, plumbing, I mean, you name it. With storage, it's a metal box on a concrete slab. So our holding costs are minimal, and our turn costs of turning a unit when it goes vacant is very minimal, and it's immediate. As soon as somebody moves out, we blow it out, and 30 seconds later, we can move in the next person who's waiting in line, because we're in the top 50 MSAs in the country. And quite honestly, this is, I feel, it's the way it should be. Call it personal, but I get into business for a reason, and that was not to allow the courts to dictate who I could collect rent from and who I couldn't. The rules are pretty clear, and where I grew up, if you didn't pay somebody, that's stealing. And the courts are allowing in habitational court, eviction court, people to just not pay and destroy somebody's property and get away with it. So we do. We are charitable. We build houses and we give them away. But I'm not forced to do it so in my business in self-storage, and it's a completely different business model, and that is the reason. It's the number one reason why we moved into self-storage, and that's why I wanted to chat about that first. And we don't have to hold the auctions on site if we don't want to as well. Our managers can handle the auction by cutting the lock at the appropriate time, taking a picture, putting it online, and then having people, the larger feeding frenzy online, bid the units up and then buy them, and then all they need to do is come out, clean it out. Our manager just opens up the door, allows them to clean it out, and then they clean that out again at the end in order for them to get their deposit back that they paid online. So it is a very simple process of getting paid and making sure that our collections are low in this asset class, and we have laws that protect our income stream. Lenders love self-storage as well, which makes it easier for us as investors to not only loan on the asset class, but it just provides more proof that this is an asset class that is safe. It is one that the banks love to have on their balance sheet, and it's another reason why investors like yourselves like to have this on their PFS, on their personal financial statement, is because we have a very low loan loss and default rate. As a matter of fact, it's the lowest. Cumulative loss rate of 1.1% compared to the other asset classes. If we look even to multifamily, and I'm not trying to pick on them, I made money in multifamily and I lost a lot of money, and it is not the asset class that is doing so well right now. As a matter of fact, the loan loss rate is triple that of self-storage, and that is the same for the default rate. Self-storage is only at 6% in terms of default, compared to multifamily at 21. It's almost 4 times as high. And that is because primarily, and most of those, even quite honestly, those self-storage facilities that do go back to the bank, they usually got tied up in a bankruptcy or something else that was happening because the borrower was making some bad decisions or got caught up in a bankruptcy, and the self-storage facility went along with it. There's banks that will take these back into receivership and keep them on their books, and they're 90% occupied or greater, and then they'll sell them off eventually. But it's typically not the fault of the storage facility itself. They continue to hum along because it works very well during an inflationary period and very well during a recession as well. And another reason why I shifted and why we like self-storage so much is that, especially as we saw during the pandemic as well, when so many other businesses were closed, we have the ability, even before that, to add on these additional income streams that ultimately add value and more cash flow, more net operating income means more value in the asset. And so we could sell locks, boxes, and moving supplies. So we were one of the retail locations that was open. So people needed moving boxes, and we were able to provide them. Record storage and shredding service is another form of storage that people need on a regular basis. We can put up billboard towers and cell phone billboards and cell phone towers on site and lease that land from us We're typically by a major road or a highway, so there's additional revenue without any additional cost to us. We offer temperature control and wine storage at a premium, so there's an incremental cost for temperature controlled storage and a very small cost to us to provide it. We also we don't sell, but we provide renters insurance. So if they want to take out tenant insurance, renters insurance, we do get a spiff for that. The owner of the facility does, but it is truly an amenity to our clients. And then also it curbs any customer service issues when they blame us if there were bugs that got into their unit, or if there's a leak in the roof or something happens. We take care of pest control. We take care of our buildings. So if anything happens to their stuff inside of their unit, they just turn it in on their renter's insurance. And if they don't want to buy it from us, they need to provide a proof that they have insurance, or they won't be renting from us as well. Vending machines are real easy to put out on site. People are thirsty and hungry when they're moving, and so that's another income stream when we hire a vending company to come out and set up shop on site. And eBay services, if we do have a facility that does have a manager to rent moving trucks and provide some other services or these income streams, eBay is one of them, to be able to offer that for folks to sell some of their stuff, or even the 100% professional eBayers, Amazon, wholesalers and distributors that operate out of our facilities. We provide those services to be able to ship things out for them for a fee as well. And packing and shipping, same thing. So eBay being selling it, as well as a pack and ship, and truck rental. Probably the most common. You see many of the U-Haul trucks or budget trucks or a number of other vendors that offer truck rentals for self-storage facilities, and it's a program where we're set up as an agent, and so we get commissions and fees for that as well. So as I mentioned earlier, another reason why we love self-storage is that it is a very simple, predictable business model, and is one that doesn't require us to manage employees. We have staff, and we have folks that oversee our facilities and perform a number of different functions, but we don't have to pay somebody 40 hours a week to sit behind a desk and wait for somebody to come in to rent a unit. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, it is no different and no more complicated than setting up a Redbox rental and renting a DVD from that kiosk. You click on the unit size that you want and where it's located in the facility, whether it's temperature controlled or not. You take a picture of your driver's license, you scan it in. It takes payment as well, assigns you a gate code and your unit number, and you're off to the races. Obviously offers renter's insurance as well, and the entire transaction can be completed without coming into contact with a person. Now, if you want to come into contact with a person, if you need assistance, we also have inside of our offices here, if you want to call it that, there is a camera and another screen, so that they can click on a button and it'll go directly to our call center, to our command center. And if they have any questions, they can talk with the person there that may help them through a rental, or negotiate in some instances, or just answer any other questions that they may have. So we don't have to have somebody on site. As a matter of fact, we have a 24-hour command center so that it keeps an eye on. We don't rent 24 hours a day. We don't allow people to rent and go into the site 24 hours a day. But we do, people can go up and pay their rent if they want to before the next day. And our video surveillance system, our security system is not surveillance. Our security system is also hooked up to the command center as well. So we can manage our facilities with a smartphone. If somebody does pay, and we can see in the system that they have paid and caught up where they were overlocked before with an electronic overlock on it, on the unit. Now it is unlocked by way of a smartphone app that connects to their phone that allows them to get into their unit. So this is how they access the unit, is by way of a key fob. To be able to get into the facility. And so not only can the client manage their unit and their relationship with us and access to their unit by way of a smartphone, but we also have access to the units as well. So if somebody does pay or have an issue, we can unlock their unit. And as you see, these are the locks on the picture on the right that are on the inside of the unit, and this is tied to our property management software. So if somebody is behind on the rent for the 6th of the month, we don't have to go out and put a physical overlock on their unit any longer. It is automatically done by the property management software, so it saves us labor costs, and it is instantaneous. And so when they pay and they get caught up, it automatically unlocks the overlock so that they have access to their system again. So we have thermal and motion security inside of our facilities. which takes care of reduced HR issues that we have with not only clients but also our employees, and a lower overall cost of maintaining and managing that facility. We do mandate renter's insurance, which cuts down on many issues as well. And all our facilities are completely fenced with electronic gates around them with, again, access by way of a gate code or by way of their smartphone. And we also let our website do the heavy lifting for us. They rent a unit. Clients can rent a unit on our website. It is a responsive website, which means that it responds to whether you're on a laptop or an iPad or your iPhone or whatever type of a device that you use. You can also pay rent online as well, and get full-time or real-time, up-to-date information on your unit and see that your payment has been made, just in case you were late and locked out. So all of this is very important when determining an asset class to invest in, and this is the reason why we love self-storage. And I ran through those very quickly, but those are the main reasons why we love it, and that what separates it from the other asset classes and why it does so well and why it has outperformed all other asset classes. But you, as an investor looking to invest passively, you need to look at the asset class. You need to understand that the returns of financials, do your due diligence, but it really rises and falls on the sponsor as well. And so I know Brian and maybe several other folks have come on and discussed on these webinars and discussed the importance of a sponsor and what to look for. But I'm going to stress it again. What is the company structure? Are they a company at all, or are they an individual? Do they have a team of folks that are experts, or are they outsourcing, which is equally important and sometimes even better and more desirable if they get the best of the best as performing some of these outsourced functions in their company. Property management. Not everybody does this well in-house. I think it's a fantastic thing if you can set this up, because nobody cares 1% as much about your facility or more than you do. However, it's just not feasible to set up a property management company if you're investing all over the country like we are. Doing your due diligence, making sure that your sponsor is doing due diligence, and that is only determined by when you're getting into their portal or getting access to a shared file system. Can you see the files, the due diligence files, and are they performing their due diligence? Do they have a legal firm or firms that they work with? Do they have an in-house counsel? If it's a larger organization, who exactly is it? Is it a friend? Is it a brother-in-law? Do they understand real estate, and do they understand SEC laws? And very important to ask the questions about their legal department, and or if they outsource, and to whom they is handling all of their legal work challenges and everything involved in the day-to-day. Insurance. Not only property insurance at the site level, but insurance, errors and omissions on their company, and then also key man life insurance. What happens if the driver of this bus of the company that you put your faith and trust in and that you're investing because of that person, what if he or she gets hit by the proverbial bus? Is there key man life insurance in place, which means the key man is or gal goes bye-bye? Is your investment made whole, or what happens after that? So very important to look at, and obviously we have Keyman Life Insurance in case myself or any of our executive staff goes bye-bye. Accounting, is that handled inside? Is it an outside accounting firm? Who handles the tax returns? So there's bookkeeping, there's accounting, and then tax return and tax law. Asking those questions of who handles the books all the way on through, and the transparency of, can you get access to those? Obviously very important. Asset management. Do they have a dedicated asset manager that is driving the net operating income? In my opinion, the most important person, and some folks would argue this, I believe that the most important person to drive the value of this facility isn't necessarily the person behind the counter. It is that area manager, that district manager that hired and trained that person behind the counter or the counters of our facilities. That person has to be motivated. They have to be a rock star, and they have to go out and hire rock stars to work underneath them and then train them. And making sure that in our organization, there is a performance component to their compensation. And that should happen at the store level, at the site for a self-storage facility, and at the district manager level as well, the person that is running that. So does the sponsor who you're looking to invest with, do they have a dedicated asset manager or asset management team that is constantly their sole purpose, one and only purpose when they show up to work in the morning and they leave at night, is to drive the net operating income of those assets and therefore your returns? Guarantors, who's guaranteeing the loans? Are they going to run out of runway and the ability to do so after a while? Is there a strong guarantor in place? Are they using recourse loans or non-recourse loans? Or do they have expensive debt, depending on how they're structuring their loans and how they're structuring the capital stack in general? What does that look like? And is there layers of expensive money on top of this in addition to your money that is coming in? Bank debt is usually the cheapest, but then are they also bringing in some mezzanine funds on top of the private equity, which is your investment? And does it put an undue burden on the property? Are the guarantors not very strong, and so they do have to pay more even for their first mortgage? All important questions to ask to see what is the likelihood that this project is going to make it and to get the returns that they have projected. And I'd say tenure is absolutely there's just no substitute for experience. If I could hop on my soapbox for a minute, don't get all caught up in the astronomical IRRs and equity multiples that people are proposing and that are projected. That's attractive, and it's a way to attract folks. But what you want to see is, how long have these people been in business, and have they gone full cycle, and have they hit their projections and met or exceeded their projections on multiple projects that they have exited? Have they been in the business for a while? And I would go so far as to ask, have they been through a recession? How long have they been investing? How long have they been investing in this asset class? And that is one where that sets our company apart, and why so many folks are interested in investing with us. And I invested passively as well. And I don't want to invest with anybody who hasn't been through the recession to know the lessons that are learned and how to prepare for that. I think there's a false sense of security in that you can do no wrong if you've been investing in and raising capital since 2010 and beyond. That's my personal thought. But there's a whole lot that you learn when you go through a recession, and companies that have been through that are, first of all, they survived and they've been through it. And second of all, there's a lot of lessons learned that as we're heading into the next one, they're battle tested. And I want to be putting my money with somebody who's been battle tested, and they've already been through World War I and getting ready to go through World War II. Those are the folks that I want to invest my money with. So, and consultants. I don't know it all. I know a lot about self-storage, a whole lot. I've been at this for 17 years. I don't know everything, and I don't know everything about every topic. And so we bring in consultants to do our feasibility studies and to back up our numbers, and then we tweak and we work on that together. We bring in property management consultants every once in a while to say, what is different about this market, and what do we need to do to move the needle in this particular area? Because consultants, they have a specialty not only in a field or a sector of our field, but also geographically. So we spare no expense in working with consultants to make sure that we have dotted I's and crossed T's, and that we're going in eyes wide open to every investment in every market. And investor relations, this is the key to at least for us having our folks continue to work with us and come back and invest. Performance is one thing, and our returns and meeting and exceeding our projections. Yeah, we got that down. But what is the relationship like with our investor relations representatives and our clients? Do they get timely responses to their questions? Are K1 sent out on time? Are the newsletters sent out on time? If they have a question, to say, hey, I haven't heard anything in a while. A good investor relations person will say, well, let's dig into your email, make sure you're whitelisted. We haven't sent us to spam, or that we're not going to spam unintentionally, and we'll get you up to speed and let you know what's going on. And do you have any questions? And do you need to speak with some of the sponsors? Do you need to speak with Scott? Do you need to speak with anybody else at the executive level? It is those folks in the investor relations side that you need to look at and ask the questions of your sponsor. Do they outsource that? Do they have people on staff? What does that look like? Because there's nothing more frustrating as a passive investor to not get answers to your questions, and that there's lots of correspondence in the beginning, and once your money's in, that you don't hear from them again as well. And then track record. It is the most important. Again, pointing back to tenure, pointing back to everything that we've talked about. Have they been in this business for a long time, and do they have a history of performing and through a recession? Tell me about the deals where you didn't hit your projections. Are there any deals where you lost investor money, where you not only didn't hit your projections, but they gave you $1 and you gave them back 80 cents? Tell me about those scenarios and what happened there, and what was behind all of that. And so our experience speaks for itself, and by comparison, looking at the folks out there, not a shameless plug, but this is some of the benchmarks that you should be looking for and at. How many folks are investing with this sponsor, and how many are coming back again? How much equity have they raised? How much do they have under management right now? Units in terms of storage is, that is always fantastic to look at, knowing that they have experience. They've done this a number of times, rinsed and repeated buying. in terms of what they have and how many units and square footage and projects. But it's more important to understand what the projections look like and how they have met or exceeded those. So what we're heading into, the market that we're heading into right now, and as you look across the landscape, we are taking on selective developments, and the development game isn't for the faint of heart. It's very profitable, but we're doubling down on existing facilities, and we have a pipeline full of B and C class properties that we're bringing up to taking from a C to a B and a B to a B plus. We're looking at areas that have high traffic counts, underserved markets, emerging markets, nothing but value add opportunities. It's a value add fund that we are filling right now of properties and investing with folks, partnering with these folks through those investments on. And the larger that we get and the more resources we bring in, the more efficiencies that we have. And we've been doing this for, well, better than 17 years now. We are focusing on Florida, South Carolina, mostly the Southeast right now, and I'll share the reasons why in a minute. North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, and Georgia. Those are the hot spots for us, the hot spots for real estate, and the hot spots for the self-storage industry right now. Only areas in population count of 25,000 and more with positive population growth. Undersupplied markets that don't have enough storage, low crime, clearly, and again, high traffic counts, so they are very visible. And then we're just deploying the strategy that I just mentioned. We're adding U-Haul dealerships. We're aggressively managing revenue and pushing rates up as much as we possibly can. And also through delinquency rate reduction, we're sticking to the lien laws and we're moving people out if they're not paying. We're also adding portable units and developing. So if we buy a 5-acre parcel that only has buildings on 4, that's how we create value. And again, something to look at as you're looking at other sponsors and other asset classes. If you're buying an existing building, project, facility, can you expand? Can you add on? Because that is the best way to be able to, and one of the safest ways to be able to add value is by adding additional square footage to it. Outdoor vehicle and boat and RV storage if we can, and then just doing what we do, our best standard operating procedures to reduce our fixed and variable expenses at all cost. And so Brian mentioned, or I asked, and he said it was okay if we shared, if anybody is interested in investing in one of our funds. We do single asset, single entity syndications, PPMs, and we also have a fund in which we are investing in nothing but value add facilities. Projections are 20 to 22%. We have and continue to exceed those on not only the ones that we have exited recently, and we can share that if you are interested to go to info@passivestorageinvesting.com. That is how you get access to our portal to pull down our track record and what we've done. Recently, we've sold 2 portfolios of a 3-pack, 2 3-packs, and done extremely well. No less than 20% and upwards of 46% IRR on those projects, and recently sold 5 others in addition to that. IRRs all in the high teens to one over 100%, where we sold a certificate of occupancy. So if that is something you are interested in talking to us more about, we would love to share what we're doing inside of our fund, because it's pretty cool. We offer a preferred return of 8%, performance split for those that are coming in at the Class A1 share of $1 million or more. You get 80% of the equity in the fund, and a 70-30 split for our Class A2 investors that are coming in from $50,000 up to $999,999. You get 70% equity. Growth focused, nothing but value add. It is IRA friendly. Targeted life of the fund is 5 years, even though some of the assets in it have been rolling over already. We just opened the fund a little over a year ago, and it is almost full. Less than a year ago, so we've been at it for 5.5 months, and we're almost full. Targeted number of assets ultimately will be 13 to 18. We'll grow the value of those and then exit. The goal is to exit on the downside of this recession, meaning on the downslope of the bell curve. When interest rates begin to go back down again and cap rates go down with it, is the time that we will have created the value in these facilities and are looking to exit. And then also those that are not investing through their IRA that are looking for depreciation, we are very aggressive in our cost segregation studies and passing that along to our investors as well. And at the end of the day, this is why we do what we do. This is our mission and our mission field. So hopefully some of the folks that are on this call, we hope to have a relationship with, like we have with many of our folks that have invested with us, and that we would love to take you on a mission trip, a short-term family mission trip. And very safe and short. And we go to Ensenada, Mexico, and in 2 days build a house and hand it off to a deserving family. And not only is it we're changing generational poverty one family and one house at a time, but also the folks that are going with us are now doing great things and coming alongside of us, and they're sponsoring a team and doing houses and bringing their own teams as well, family, friends, and what have you. So it's pretty infectious, and it's pretty cool. If you are interested in doing something like that alongside of us, we would love to host you. So now is the time, folks. I'm going to end where we began. Why storage and why now? 2022 is still looking absolutely incredible. Yardi Matrix, where we grab most of our industry data from, the National Self-Storage Report for July of 2020. This just came out the other day. We're seeing a 5 to 8%, depending upon the market, year-over-year rent growth in the Southeast, which is our core focus. And so if you look at the national average is hovering around 4%, whereas it's double in Orlando, Miami, Tampa, Charlotte, Atlanta, Charleston. These are all the states and the cities that we're currently operating in. And yep, we knew it all along. We've seen it, and it's always good to see it in print, however, as well. And we know that self-storage outperforms as we head into a recession. So folks, don't just take my word for it, but go out and do your due diligence. Look at the stats. The industry data is out there. Look at self-storage. Understand how it works and why it works so well during a recession as we're heading into. Look at your sponsors very closely. And one other piece that I'm going to bring, I don't want to be the black cloud, but there's good news behind it, and I just want to make everyone aware of the place that we're at right now. Inflation, we know inflation is high, 6%, 7%, whatever that looks like. Many economists will say that the real inflation rate, once you peel everything else back and get to it, is double digits, and it's in that 12 to 13%. I'm in agreement with that. There's other folks that say it's above 20%. I'm not so sure that is the case, but at the end of the day, it's greater than 6%. And so as you look at your portfolio, your investment portfolio, if you're really not gaining more than whatever number that you find out there, that 13, 14, 15%, the real inflation rate, if you're not earning more than that, you're going backwards. And so your investment dollars, you need to put them to good use and in a good place. I'm not selling anything here today other than Brian asked me to come and teach about self-storage. But when you look at the asset class and the sector as a whole, whether you invest with us or anybody else or not, or if you decide to go out and do it on your own and start buying your own self-storage facilities, I believe that this is the asset class. So you can see it, touch it, feel it. It's real estate. It's all the benefits of real estate. But this is the asset class that consistently outperforms the others, and it consistently is outperforming inflation in that double-digit range compared to the other asset classes, which have a tough time. How do I know? Well, here's more stats for you. If you look at the 25-year average annual returns for self-storage, it's 16.85%. Industrial is 13%, healthcare 13%, multifamily at 12.9%, retail at 12%, office at 12%, and S&P 500 at 7%. Conversely, the downside protection as we head into a recession, self-storage, is the least affected because, again, it does so well during self-storage. So even at the height of the last recession, storage was only down 3.86%. Multifamily was double that. It was down 6.72%. Retail really took a beating, obviously. Office at 8%, and the S&P 500 was at 21%. So as folks are exiting the stock market right now looking for yield, they're heading to self-storage, and for good reason. $100,000 invested in self-storage in 1994 outperformed multifamily by $2,215,650 and the S&P 500 by $3,494,170. And that's the source is the National Real Estate Investment Trust Company data gathering source. So if you take away anything from this, folks, as you head into a recession, if you're investing in any of these other asset classes, it is the stats don't lie. Just be cautious of who you invest with and the individual projects. So if you are interested in learning more about what we do or reaching out to me for any other reason, info@passivestorageinvesting.com is the best place to reach us. So with that, Brian, I'll turn it back over to you for any questions. I don't know if we're ending right at an hour here. I apologize if we only left a few minutes here, but I'll answer as many as we can.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate all the information. That was definitely a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, you would be. I know the viewers enjoyed it as well. So anybody that's listening, we will post the recording to all of our social media. But for now, we're going to open it up to Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and type those in the Q&A section and I will read those off. Um, in the meantime, hey, Scott, somebody wanted to, I know you have events.
Mhm.
Is that open to the public? Anybody can attend those?
It is. If you go to selfstorageinvesting.com, that is our education site. And so, yeah, we've been teaching people for the past 15 years how to do this business. And so, Brian, you can just ask Brian, or maybe not. Maybe it's not appropriate. Brian has stepped into a couple of our sessions down in Florida. And we teach people the process of how to go out, find, evaluate, purchase, and manage self-storage facilities. It's kind of a 201 level. It's for those folks that have been investing in real estate. This is commercial real estate. And so we have that as well as our mastermind, and that is a group. If there's anybody on this call that's heavily involved in self-storage, this is a group of the one percenters in the industry, the rock stars. We get together once a quarter and we meet and we discuss what the best opportunities are in the marketplace and how to do deal structures and how to match up private equity with the projects that we have. So we teach all things self-storage. We have white papers and all kinds of free resources. So, yep, head over to selfstorageinvesting.com and you can begin to poke around and learn a little bit more so that you can make your own good decisions.
All right. Awesome. So I do have quite a few questions here. They're coming on in. First thing is your company a REIT? And if not, what is it?
We are not. So the way that we operate, well, I'll answer the question, but maybe in a different way. We follow the REITs, the public storages, extra space storage, and life storage. We reverse engineer what they do, and then we deploy those strategies in our own company. We learn a lot from these folks. They're not the big bad competition. We learn a lot, and we work with them, and we sell properties to them as well. But we are not a REIT. I'm not a private REIT or a public REIT, although we operate similar to one. The only difference is that when you go public, you go public. We're not. We're still private. We do, again, single asset, single entity syndications by way of a PPM, so a Reg D 506B or 506C offerings. And our fund is a $25 million fund that operates a lot like a REIT, but it is not a public REIT. So you have access to all of any client has access to all of our figures, but we are just not public. We don't have to report to the SEC by way of going public. So everything is there. Everything is available to folks just like it is with the REIT, but we have just not gone public.
Good answer. Okay, so the next question is, you noted the continued strong demand for self-storage.
Mm-hmm.
Can you also address the supply side given the undifferentiated nature of facilities, a low cost of building, relatively short lead time to add new self-storage units, and intense price competition?
Mm-hmm. So the supply side, I'm assuming you're saying that the risk of being overbuilt is what you're asking, Bill. And first of all, the good news is just about every developer out there is pretty savvy, and they've got lenders and appraisers and consultants that are going to take a look at the supply index of a market, look at the rental rates, and if there's too much competition, if there's an oversupply, the deal is usually not going to pencil out, and the lender's not going to, the appraiser's not going to appraise it for what it needs to be or an as is to be. The consultant in a feasibility study is going to suggest not to build, and the lender's probably going to look at the time frame from the feasibility study to lease it up or get it to not only break even, but stabilization, and that usually kills all projects. So there's kind of a self-policing in the market, if you will, in terms of development. Now there are some areas, some remote areas where it is like the Wild Wild West. Anybody can just develop and they'll rubber stamp a permit to try to get something on the tax roll and see if it sticks. That's pretty rare. And there is, I see the exact same things that you're looking at. And I see the press, and I've even been on the stage with several of these folks with the REITs and national players. I'm speaking to an audience of 3,000 at the trade shows about how this city is a flyover city and state, and this one is overbuilt. And as they're walking off the stage, talking about their new developments in that same state and that same city. So I don't believe everything I read. And our market, Bill, is our market is a 5-mile radius. Our competition is within 5 miles, and we can dial that in pretty close. People don't drive more than 5 miles to get to their stuff. And so if it's oversupplied in that 5-mile radius, then we simply go 5 miles down the road or 7 miles down the road to get into another area, another radius, and we begin to do our research there to see where rental rates are and the supply. So I believe I've answered your question. Cost of building, relatively short lead time to add new storage units, and I'm assuming that's the case. If I didn't answer that, then let me know.
All right. Can you re-explain why millennials are
Mhm.
such big consumers of self-storage?
Yeah, self-storage, Greg, is demand based, and demand is for self-storage is generated by life events, and so that's good and bad. Millennials are very mobile and very transient, and so anytime somebody has a move coming up, if they're moving from one home to the next, that's why spring is always so busy in self-storage, because people are moving, school's out there, and they're moving houses and moving around the country, and so millennials are moving a lot more. They have smaller houses, they have smaller apartments. They don't want to be tied to a house that's not as important than it is to have an experience. And so if they've got a tiny house, an apartment, a condo, they can sell it. They can, when the lease runs out, they can move wherever they want to go, or just go on sabbatical or vacation or an extended hike across Europe. And they put all their stuff into self-storage. Also, millennials are more they are more adventure driven, and so they have kayaks, they have boats, they have mountain bikes, they have camping gear, and that won't fit into their smaller living quarters. They don't need to have a big house. They're not buying as many houses, and so they're creating an even larger demand for self storage than the boomers were.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely here in Florida, there's no basements
Yeah.
here, so I have a
Right.
self-storage unit. It's one of those states that
And on behalf of the industry, we
closets and
thank you, Brian.
yeah, I mean the closets in my house when I bought it, there's no space, just small attics, and I had to
Mhm.
buy a separate storage that I put in my backyard, which is huge and still not enough storage space.
Mhm.
And I have a garage, so I can attest
Yep.
to why self-storage for millennials. It's a good solution. It's
It
I
works.
have my I have my jet ski in there and other
Hmm.
things, but you can't
See?
fit everything in these small houses, especially in Florida and Central Florida, from my own
No,
experience.
absolutely not. No, and in the subdivisions we're seeing now are being built with even zero lot lines and even less storage, and certainly in Florida, yeah, no basements.
Yep. Okay, so what has the return been to your investors for each of the last 5 years? So I guess like the average ROI.
If you go to passivestorageinvesting.com, you will see the stats, and we are updating that. We just sold 6 more properties, and you can see what those returns were on each one of them. So we don't really necessarily have an average. Our projections on some were less than the others. The important thing is, did we meet them or exceed them? But I don't even want to hazard a guess, because right now we've had some that are very high. But when our projected IRR is typically around, for an existing facility, is usually around 17 or 18. And for development projects have been above 20. And we have met or exceeded those. And so if that gives you at least a gauge for now, but you can head on over to our website and take a look at all of our past projects that we've exited.
Yeah, and that comes with, due diligence. You definitely want to look at stats, and it's a great question. But a lot of, before you ever make any investment, you always want to do your due diligence, and that's something you
Mhm.
want to look at.
Mhm.
All right, another question, and this is going to be the last one. What
Mhm.
does sponsor mean? What's the difference in, I guess, a
Yep.
sponsor, a syndicator?
Mm-hmm. It's me. You're looking at one. So the sponsor is the person who essentially puts it all together, and so it is our company that puts it together and our resources. And so I think the best way to say it is we're sponsoring this project, which means that we're bringing in the guarantors, or we're guarantoring the loan on the property, and then we're bringing the rest of the capital in by way of private equity and matching it up. So we're sponsoring the project. We are the quarterback who is putting it all together and getting the equity sources and the debt sources together on the project, and then we're the ones who have to then create the returns for everybody afterwards. So we're sponsoring the project, we're promoting it to folks. That's why it's called a promote. We promote it to folks to say this is what we feel this project can do based upon our experience and our consultants' data. This is where we feel we can take this project. So that is where the term sponsor comes from.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion, what a sponsor really is they're doing all the legwork for you. They're finding the property, they're doing the due diligence, they're getting the underwriting, they're negotiating, they're
Mhm.
creating the opportunity for passive investors to be able to make these types of investments. So there's a lot more to it, but
Mhm.
that's what a syndicator does, is they're able to put the deal together, so that way it opens up opportunity for other people that might
Mhm.
not have the time, but they want to be passive investors and they want to get their money out of the stock market, put it in something more tangible, something that they know, is going to perform better than maybe, putting it in the S&P 500 or something.
Mhm. Yep. You explained it better than I did, Brian. So, Tom, it's really synonymous with the investor, the lead investor who's putting it together, the sponsor, the promoter. Yeah, but it's a person who does all that. So, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we're going to go to wrap it up. Before we do, just a few things. Like I said, we post all of our recordings on our social media. Thank you again, Scott, for spending some time with us. Always a pleasure having you. I'll be seeing you soon in Indianapolis.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm excited about it. I get to talk to a group of, your masterminds that are
Hmm.
learning to be syndicators. And I love
Yep.
that you give back and teach. And not only that, I would love to participate in building some a property with you in Mexico. I always,
Yeah.
always wanted to do something like that. So
Yep.
now
We'll
that
get
I
you
know
there.
about it, I'll be there on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks. You can email us at iraspecialist@NuViewTrust.com. If you have questions about setting up a self-directed IRA, I'm happy to do a consultation with you. We'll go through your options. And then if you're ready to make an investment, just let us know what you want to do. I'll connect you with the right team on our transactions department. Process is very simple. It takes a little bit of time. So give us, I'd say, a week at the most to 2 weeks before we can get funds over, and then you can execute that investment. The money is usually held up by your current custodian, so it does take some time. And this is our social media. If you want to scan the QR code, that's the best way to stay up to date with anything that NuView is doing. We are running a promotion this month, the promo code, and we're running a little bit early, but it is for August. So if you do open an account right now, we are giving you $50 off the application fee and a $50 credit towards your first investment. So that saves you $100 right there. And the promo code is AUG22, and it expires August the 15th. And if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me or anyone on my team. Thanks a lot, everyone, again, and we'll see you next Wednesday, 1 p.m.